Amazing coach and a great rock star agent selling 50 homes a year, right from Long Beach, California, Eileen Rivera. Give her a big round of applause. Come on out, Eileen. Sexy back.
Thank you. It's bright up here. Hi, everybody. Who likes listings? Woo! Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to talk about in terms of tools is the tool, the skill, if you will, of building rapport. I think it's so critical when you go into a listing appointment, particularly when you don't know a lot about that person. So, okay, as you can imagine, these lovely people are a couple clients of mine, and you can imagine that you would present very differently to them than you would present to them. Okay, and my friend Danny and his partner Greg, different presentation. And Evalu and Eric, different presentation. They're just all at a different place in their life, so you present differently. But regardless of who you're presenting to, the quickest way to build rapport is to mirror and match someone's volume and rate of speech. So it's not mimicking. There's no reason you should feel uncomfortable. But when I'm teaching, I have to remember to slow down. When I'm with my family, I get in touch with my New York roots and start talking really, really quick because I got to get everything done. Okay, so when you're with your prospect, you want to remember that. Volume and rate of speech. Okay, I don't have to point at the screen. I'll get that in a minute. Okay, next after rapport, tools you should be using. Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. The way you should be using that is not only the way that you've been hearing about all day, but it's to research your clients. While we all love those appointments that are come list me and take 15 or 20 minutes to get a signature, sometimes you get that appointment where you don't know anything about the person. All right? Take a minute and research them online. We recently took a listing in our geographic farm. The gentleman called and said, my sister-in-law passed away. I'm getting ready to list her home, and I'm interviewing 3 agents. I said, oh, okay, tell me more about that. Well, the first agent he was interviewing was a referral from the family attorney. The second agent he was interviewing was from a family friend. The reason he was interviewing me was because every time he came into town, he found one of my postcards at the property. And I thought, okay, what are the chances? These people are walking in with rapport. They're walking in with a recommendation. But I also think those are the ones that are the most fun. Because if you can win those, it just elevates everything that you're doing at the listing presentation. So my husband, my partner Gary, mentioned that the area code was 760, I believe. He said, I think that's out in the desert. Let me see if I can find anything in Realist. So he got on the computer, and he found the gentleman's name and the property address. Then I called my good friend John Jay, who works out in Palm Desert, and said, what can you tell me about this area? So John gave me the whole scoop, because I like playing detective. You want to do that before you go to a listing appointment. So he gave me the scoop. Turns out this guy lived in a huge property down the block from where Gerald Ford used to live. Then we found him on Google and LinkedIn and a couple of other places. And let me see if I can get this right. This gentleman had a BS, an MA, an MS, and 2 PhDs. And 3 awards from NASA. I was getting a little nervous. I didn't make it through junior college, by the way. But, the more info I had, I'm thinking, all right, this isn't going to be a warm and fuzzy kind of listing appointment. This is going to be an analytic, and that's how I prepared. So that's it on that. Just research on Google, research on LinkedIn, research on Facebook, all those places before you go into a listing appointment. And with so many of us using Facebook, it's really neat when you put somebody's name in, and you didn't know who they were. That's why you're checking. But it turns out you have 4 friends in common. So I'm sure I don't need to tell you at that point you call some of those friends and make sure that they put in a good word for you. Okay, another thing is be very conscious of the age group and the type of client you're presenting to. Years ago, I learned from my good friend Dave Robles that props are good. People like them. So don't be hesitant to pull out stuff if it's the right person. So some of the things that we use at our presentation is we use DVDs, movies that we've made, virtual tours of other properties, testimonials from our clients, a variety of things. But again, it's stuff. It's just stuff for those clients that like to be handed something, that want that proof of they're not your first client. You've done it before. We also use sold signs. I have agents in my coaching schedule that'll go in to do a listing presentation. The first thing they do is put down a sold sign on the table, and people are like, boy, you're a little aggressive. Well, that's what you want, isn't it? To get your home sold. Anything that's like this is a map of our geographic farm, and it has about 200 dots on it, represents properties that we've sold. Thank you, John Jay, wherever you are. This is one of those validation pieces. This validates you in the community and you as a professional. So again, some would think a little cheesy, but Dave showed me the beauty of it. I'm going to keep pulling stuff out because everybody has some of this. We also, one of the things I love to do is I have a portable DVD player. This I got from Lisa Doyle. It's over there somewhere. It's great if you have, use whatever you have, use whatever's available to you. I either take a video that are the properties I've sold in the area, and it's me talking, and you guys will all get a link to this later. Or I use a client testimonial, but I actually put it in front of them, and I love the remote, instead of going over there and pushing the button, and I click the remote, and the video starts, and I set it up first, and I tell them, while you're looking at this, I'd like to walk through your home and have that first impression by myself. And sometimes clients hesitate, and all you have to do is tell them, oh, no, we're going to spend lots of time going through it together. I want to know everything you've done and all the improvements you've made. I just want you to have a minute to watch this, and so that I can walk through the way a buyer would walk through if we were putting the house on the market today. Okay, so map, sold sign, DVD player. Christoph mentioned the flip cam. We do a lot of, before we ever list the property, we'll go out in front of the property and we'll do a commercial based on the information that we researched off of Realist and previous MLS, and we'll do a coming soon video. We'll also have a link to that on the sheet. And then we go in and we play it at the listing presentation. And that is one of the best assumptive close tools there are. If you film a video on your way to a listing presentation before you go in, and you get to plug it into your laptop or pull it up on your iPad and show them that you're already working for them and that you're using all the cutting edge techniques that are available to us, you're halfway there, you guys. That and the rapport, and you're going to be doing CMAs. Right to the CMA, right to price. Okay. Number 6. I'm trying to hurry. Where's my time? Sorry. Okay. Scripts. I'm sure many of you recognize these books. They're filled with scripts. I have many, many more. I have notepads filled with one-liners, with scripts. These are all available on Tom's site. So everything that's in these previous books are available on the site. That is a tool that you must embrace. How awesome was Carl? Isn't he great? Carl is a script objection king. So you want to be that as well. Scripts, number 6. I should hurry, huh? Number 7, professional cover. Have one made. Buyer's presentation, listing presentation, CMA, anything. If you come up with something that's congruent with your brand and your marketing, Again, everything we're talking about is at the listing presentation. How do you separate yourself from the crowd? As soon as you have a professional cover, I don't care if all you put in it is the property profile and the CMA, it still looks so much better than these agents that I see in my market. I still see it time and time again. They come in with a folder with the company name on it, and they think because it's a pretty shiny cover that it's a real professional look. You want to brand you. Come up with something, please. Okay? It's inexpensive. Okay, we've all heard that old line about selling isn't telling. When you're here this week, anytime you hear a great question or even a great one-liner, please write it down. Please start collecting them. Sorry, that's not my glasses. I love questions, and these are some that I've collected since I've been hanging out with Tom. I'm only going to go through a few, but you'll get the point. What's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? What's the most likely scenario? How often do you want me to contact you? Would you prefer to get updates via email, or is it okay if I call? How quickly do you want me to have an offer in front of you? Are you more nervous or excited about getting the house listed? Are you ready to sign the contract? Would you like to take a minute to review the unique items that are in my marketing plan that only my team does? How quickly would you like to be in escrow? How quickly do you want to be reviewing an offer? Here's the value in you taking the time to create your own questions, though I will share all of mine with you, is that when you prep by reading questions as part of your process, you're not nervous. You go in there and you're not thinking about yourself. You're thinking about the questions you're going to ask your prospect and what their answers are going to be. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay, business cards. Back to real old school and basic. I actually have all of these business cards, most of which I've collected at events like this. My assistant has scanned them. They're on an Excel spreadsheet. I can pull out my iPad and just, take my finger and go through them. But if you don't do that, or you're meeting with someone that's 70 or 80 or 90, it's a nice visual. When you're talking about networking, when I talk about how I come to events like this 4 times a year to meet amazing people like you, I get your business cards, I put you in my database, we network, we give each other referrals. In your own language, when you're sharing that with your client, it's kind of cool to have a few thousand of them to kind of plunk down on the table. Okay? We as salespeople, I believe too often are telling our clients what we do. Oh, I'm going to put this up, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I do great professional photos. But you don't bring them the materials to show them what you're doing. You're just doing this. Okay? So I'm encouraging you, show them. I have a listing presentation on my iPad. I use it. You have to know your market. That older lady, Mrs. Bowers, who's just a sweetheart, when I met with her, when we listed her house, she was 94 years old. I brought over the iPad, and just holding it made her nervous. It's like, no, here, and she gave it to her daughter. So got to know your audience. Okay. Make sure that you bring samples of your marketing material. I'm really big on you in any way you can, leveraging your past successes. So I just recently got a great new coaching client, Ruth, who is new to the market she's in, but she was a top producing, power broker agent. So one of the things that we're going to work on is taking her old successes and leveraging them in this new market. So I love this. This is some of our marketing material. And again, a lot of it will be online. But I just like this. I like being able to hand it to them and show this to them. And back to Christoph's point, when Gary Vaynerchuk was with us, one of the terms he and Tom talked about a lot was social proof. Just listed, just sold, and testimonials are about the best social proof you're going to get. So if you've already done some deals and closed them, you have potential testimonials there. You just have to ask for them. So that was marketing material. Questionnaires for sellers to fill out. Again, our markets are all different. Our MLSs are different. I will give the office the questionnaire that my partner designed, but we have a questionnaire that we hand to the client very, very early on in the process, like maybe during the video or right afterwards when we sit down. And what it is when you load a property on the MLS, it asks you all those questions and you have to put in information. We've transcribed those questions, so I recommend you do it for your own MLS. All of those questions into a document we've saved. We put their name, their address, and other contact information that we're requesting at the top, and we hand it to them, and we ask them to fill it out. You can each design your own perfect listing presentation for you. You're going to have those variables depending on the personality. For me, I love doing that very early on in the process, because whether I'm right or not, I've convinced myself that the moment that you have physically and intellectually engaged the prospect, it's another step in an assumptive close. So if they're writing on this questionnaire telling you, oh, we put the air conditioning in 3 years ago and the roof is 5 years old, et cetera, this is what you're doing. You're just reeling them in. One item after another, you're just reeling them in. So the questionnaire will be on there. That's the one cool thing about, well, one of the many cool things about the iPad. I wouldn't be flipping through these pages like this. Okay, how many of you, if you would please by a show of hands, how many of you are registered on Zillow? Okay, wrong question. How many of you are not registered on Zillow? Okay, I want to make sure that those of you that are not know that you can be registered on Zillow, and this is how much it costs. $0. So there's absolutely no reason, if you're in the United States, not to be registered on Zillow. It's free. They send you free listing reports on all of your active listings. And you can have your clients start putting reviews on there. I probably did that for a year and a half before I started paying Zillow anything. Okay, the beauty in that is when you get that report, that's one more thing that you can show your client once you have the listing, or when you're showing it to them as, oh, this is what I'm going to do for you, is you give them those Zillow reports. So it's one more piece of technology where you're saying, oh, on my listings, I had one recently where I showed them we'd had, I don't know, 24,000 views or something. Okay, you put that in front of a prospect, it's like, wow, how'd you do that? Well, how I did it was thank you, Zillow. You know, because, again, free. So along those lines, so that's one of the things that we provide to our client in our weekly marketing update. I show my prospect at the listing appointment a sample of our weekly marketing update. So we give them the reviews on Zillow, price changes, status changing in the status of properties in the market. It's an update. But again, I can tell them that I do that, but I've noticed that there's a lot of agents that tell their clients they do something and never do it. So I like, at the listing presentation, to show them a sample. That's one of those times when I ask them, do you want to talk once a week? Do you want me to email you? Do you want me to text you? What are your top, we have like, I have 4 or 5 things, and I ask them, what are their top 2 favorite ways to communicate? And I tell them, but by the way, the moment I have an offer, I'm going to track you down. So regardless of what your favorite is, it goes out the window. Again, assumptive. Oh, I'm out. With my last minute, I'm going to take one last minute and tell you guys a personal story, which is probably when I'm going to get really nervous. About 4 or 5 years ago, I don't know if any of you were at the summit 5 years ago or so, Tom introduced us to a friend of his named Tony Robbins. Great speaker. It was really cool to hear him. And I recently, 5 years later, went to one of his events. Has everybody heard of Tony Robbins? Okay, all right. So I went to one of his events. It's the one where you walk on 1,200-degree coals. Right? Yes, it was in the news. And it was really interesting because when we got to the coals, my heart was like so committed the whole day. They prep you for this. And I was so excited, and I was going to do this, and, I was just in there with everybody else, and rah, and I'm going to get this done. And I got there, and I'm watching these people, and for some of them, it's nothing. It's like they didn't have a second thought, they just right over. Old people, little people, just right over. And then for others, it wasn't even an option. There was just no way that they were doing it. Well, the noise in my head took over, and I almost backed out. I got really scared. I went up, and I turned around, and I went up, and I turned around. And then I thought, ask for help. Ask for help. So I walk up. It's the 4th time I'm at the front of the line. I'm thinking they're going to send me home. And I looked at this older gentleman. He was support staff, and I said to him, will you help me? Can you walk with me? He's outside the lane. And he said, of course I can. And this is what he did. He was on my left, and he put his hand out like this. And you guys, I kid you not, his hand was out like this, and this is all I did. I barely touched his hand, and we walked right over those coals and right through my fear. And as I'm walking, thank you. As I'm walking back to the hotel in bare but unburned feet, I had one of those ahas that some of you have probably already had today. You know, when we're in this kind of environment, we have time to stop and slow down and think, and we get those, oh. And my aha was a deeper realization of how incredibly lucky I've been in my business, that every time I've wondered, damn, what's the next step? What do I do? Every time I've been afraid, every time I've doubted my own ability, I've had Tom Ferry and his entire team of coaches to do this. Thank you.
Nice job. Okay.